even if they've been to these places and failed, the family and the friends and the country and the society and our culture says, go back to the best. Sloan Kettering, MD Anderson, Stanford. And celebrities particularly, we started this conversation talking about celebrities. They're particularly vulnerable to that because they get special treatment. I guarantee that Steve Jobs wasn't going in through the front door with the herds of patients going to Stanford, that his limousine brought him to the special door for celebrities. So they get special treatment. You know, my mentor when I was a medical student, was the president of Sloan Kettering, and he used to tell me stories about other presidents of Sloan Kettering, that as soon as a celebrity would come to them, the president would take them to lunch and wine and dine them because they saw donations. Even if the patient dies, they saw donations, as it happened with Michael Landon. I mean, I have not had it verified, but his press agent's a good friend. He said his widow gave Cedars-Sinai $38 million after he died. So even when they die, they're grateful. In fact, when I went to Cornell, which is associated with Sloan Kettering, worked under the president of Sloan Kettering there, and when I was doing my medical rotation on the floors of Memorial Hospital, I noticed that every room had a plaque next to it in honor of and memory of. And the residents used to laugh. They said, well, these are the wealthy, and the size of the plaque depended on how much money you gave. And some of these plaques are pretty big. And every room in Memorial Hospital has a plaque next to it. And it's all in memory of. They're all dead people. And the residents used to call it the Grateful Dead. They're all dead. And the families are so great. The families were, even though the person's dead, which would say, well, it didn't work, why are we so grateful? They're so grateful that they went to the best. And they know they did the best for, Susie or Sammy or Tommy or whatever, for the mother, the father, the son. They went to the best of the best, these demigod geniuses, the best of the best in this extraordinary profession of medical research. The fact that the guy died or the woman died doesn't mean anything. It doesn't even register. That's how Sloan Kettering survives. It's the most endowed hospital in the world. And a lot of the donations come from dead people. What I did not see on the floors of Memorial Hospital was, thanks for saving my life. It was all in memory of. They're all dead.
That's profound.
Yeah,
that's
and
profound.
the residents themselves, who were all conventional, training to be conventional doctors, they used to laugh. They said, "This is the Grateful Dead." That's how it's known at Memorial. Believe me, that's not in the press releases, but that's what they call those plaques, the Grateful Dead. And it's funny but tragic. It's very, very tragic. A celebrity dies in the hands of a conventional doctor, and people celebrate how hard the doctor worked. Like, no one's criticizing Steve Jobs' doctor. In fact, they're criticizing the alternative. He did Scotty. He ate whole grains and carrot juice for 6 months. That's why he died. No one's criticizing the guy who did the liver transplant. No one's criticizing the guy who did the Whipple, none of which worked. He died. They're not criticizing them. They get a free pass on this. I mean, celebrity after celebrity has died of cancer. Michael Landon, Steve Jobs.
Patrick Swayze
recently, he was treated by the same oncologist that treated Steve Jobs.
God almighty.
Same oncologist. So he lost two major celebrities. He didn't get criticized. He gets lauded as a hero fighting this terrible disease, this noble man. The great story, because I read about it in the New York Times, there's a very well-known oncologist at Sloan Kettering who specialized in breast cancer, and he treated Linda McCartney, Paul McCartney's beloved wife, who had breast cancer. And the McCartneys knew about me because one of their best friends is a successful breast cancer patient that I treated. So they knew all about me, but they got sucked into this is the best. And the McCartneys the guy's worth $1 billion. He could have gone anywhere. So they went to Sloan Kettering, gave him chemo, didn't work, more chemo didn't work. Then they did a bone marrow transplant. There's never been a study. I was trained to do bone marrow transplant. Never been a study in the history of the world showing bone marrow transplantation works for metastatic breast cancer. Well, she got a bone marrow transplant, cost $500,000, whatever. She dies. Liz Tabaris was the editor of Vogue, famed editor of Vogue here in New York, very well known. She had ovarian cancer, gave her chemo at Sloan Kettering, didn't work. She went to the best of the best, like celebrities do. More chemo didn't work. Then they do a bone marrow transplant. The same oncologist does a bone marrow transplant on her, and she dies. Here's two major celebrities that got a treatment that has never been shown to have any benefit either in metastatic breast or ovarian. Does he get criticized? No. The New York Times interviews him after both these celebrity patients had died, lauding him as this hero, trying so desperately to help these wonderful people that are gifts to humanity. It was like they were lauding him. And they said, well, they're dead. And he gave a therapy that didn't work. In fact, alternatives are supposedly unproven therapies. Bone marrow transplant for breast cancer, bone marrow transplant for ovarian cancer, not only are unproven, they've been proven not to work. No criticism. He wasn't blasted for doing that, for using a useless, unproven, expensive therapy on unsuspecting cancer patients. He was lauded as a hero. it was a major story in the New York Times about what a hero he was. Had he been an alternative doctor offering the same two women some alternative therapy, that doctor would be in jail.
Laura Nero, singer-songwriter, also had ovarian cancer in New York and died. Never knew about you.
Well, she did know about me. In fact,
she did?
Called me. Yeah, but by the time she called me, she was so advanced she couldn't even eat. We couldn't possibly treat her. She was too sick. She'd done all the standard things. And here's a woman, she was a major songwriter.
Oh, incredible. Incredible.
Beloved songwriter, and she was fairly young when she got the cancer. And she did, here again, she was kind of out of the folk rock roots. So here's someone who's not conventional in her music, but when it came to cancer, it doesn't matter. They march like sheep right to Sloan Kettering. And then one of her good friends was a successful patient of mine with, interestingly enough, ovarian cancer. So she finally called me at the end, but it was too late. We couldn't help her, didn't see her. So we told her it was just too late, and she accepted it. And so that was just, she was dying.
How
she died.
Sad.
She actually died a few weeks later.
Oh my God, that was so sad when I heard about that. And what about Gilda Radner? Did Gilda ever call you?
No. Well, that was in the 80s, and she was very, all she did was conventional. I don't think she did anything alternative at all. Again, here's a woman who's, Saturday Night Live, this funky comedian, totally outside the box. When she got cancer, she marches to the convention without thinking. She's dead. So she has Gilda's clubs to keep her memory alive. But what a tragedy. I have patients with ovarian cancer who've been with me 20 years and just doing wonderfully. I mean, we don't get them all well, but most of them do great. So it is frustrating. The lure of convention, the authority of conventional medicine, and
the peer pressure as well.
Lest your audience think that we're just crazy and ranting and raving like a couple nutcases, most of what they do is not scientifically based. That bone marrow transplant for Linda McCartney or for Liz Tabaris, there's no science in the history of medicine that shows it would have worked in those situations. And they're very expensive, and they also carry mortality. 10 to 30% of patients die during the procedure. These are not simple procedures. Had an alternative practitioner offered a $500,000 therapy where 10 to 30% of patients die during the procedure that had no proof that it worked, he'd be in prison for fraud.
Clearly.
But conventional doctors can do that with total, not only protection, but they get lauded and then they get donations. I'm sure Paul McCartney gave Sloan Kettering a huge chunk of money out of gratitude for their dedication to his wife.
In our earlier interview, you were saying something about how the immune system is not where the action is. It has to do with the pancreatic enzymes.
Right.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, totally.
Talk about that.
Well, again, to give my credentials, not that credentials mean anything. The whole point of our conversation is credentials often mean nothing. I was trained as a conventional cancer immunologist. My mentor, Robert Good, was considered in his obituary the founder of modern immunology. He was president of Sloan Kettering for 10 years. So I'm trained in classical immunology in good hope that immunology would be the answer to cancer. Well, it wasn't. And one of his wives died of pancreatic cancer after 2 months doing all the immunotherapy. It didn't really help her. And the immune system is not the critical issue. Both in the conventional alternative world, that's where all the hope is. You got to. I hear this all the time. You have to stimulate the immune system. And I always say, why? And people look at me like I'm an idiot. Why? There's no evidence that that's going to do anything. I mean, conventional oncology has been fixated on the immune system for years. I mean, Robert Good, my mentor, became president of Sloan Kettering in 1972. He was not an oncologist. He was an immunologist. Figured out what the thymus did. They thought this was the answer to cancer. 10 years later, they pushed him out because after 10 years, he was no closer to finding a solution than he had been 10 years earlier. There have been all kinds of immune boondoggles, interleukin-2, interferon, all these vaccines for melanoma. All these things are going to cure cancer. They don't. They never have worked out. It's not a question of the immune system. In fact, for certain cancers like the immune cancers, leukemia, lymphoma, multiple myeloma, the problem is the immune system's too active.
How about Hodgkin's?
Hodgkin's immune system is too active. Any kind of lymphoma, and Hodgkin's is a type of lymphoma, leukemia, multiple myeloma, which is a type of cancer of certain lymph cells. Those are situations where the immune system is too active. Leukemia, the immune system is too active. You want to shut it off. I have patients, before they've seen me, they went to this doctor and that doctor, conventional doctor, alternative doctor. They want to stimulate the immune system. The patients come in, and they're programmed. What are you going to do to stimulate my immune system? I said, leukemia, what I'm going to do is shut it off because your immune system's too active. That's what leukemia is in our world by definition. And they open their mouth and look at me like they've had a revelation or they think they've seen a ghost.
It sounds like your ability to see is in no man's land. You're not in the traditional and you're not in the alternative. You're somewhere in between. To the other arenas, it looks like you're in no man's land.
Oh, that's correct. Look, a lot of alternative practitioners think I'm crazy. They think,